Be honest with yourself. Are you living to enjoy your life or merely existing to pay bills that never end? In America today, everything costs more than your own breath. $200 a month. An amount you once believed was enough for a decent life now only buys you survival. A modest apartment, a half-empty fridge, a routine built on calculation caution, and the constant hope that no unexpected bill shows up in your mailbox tomorrow. But somewhere beyond America's borders, in quiet seaside towns, peaceful valleys, or mist-covered mountain villages, just $215 a month for rent, plus a few dollars for food, morning coffee, and fresh produce from the local market, is enough for you to live clean, live safely, and live like a human being who is allowed to breathe gently, not a machine built to pay debt. The scariest part isn't that prices are rising. The scariest part is this. Every year you stay in America, you lose another piece of the retirement dream you spent your whole life building. Because there are 8 financial traps quietly draining the savings of millions of Americans, traps that 90% of people are never warned about. Traps that force some to choose between medication and meals. Traps that make many reach age 65 only to realize they did everything right, except choosing the right place to live. These 5 countries, quiet, affordable, and unadvertised, are quietly rescuing an entire generation of Americans from a life of mere existence. And if you're ready to see what America has made you forget, this journey will change the way you think about your own future. 5. LAOS, Pakse, the quiet river city. Saving retirements. There are moments in life when a single place forces you to stop, breathe, and question everything you thought was normal. Pakse is one of those places, a quiet river city in southern Laos, so gentle and so untouched that many Americans who arrive here feel the same shock. Why did I spend decades paying to survive when I could have lived like this? Housing is the first thing that breaks your expectations. A clean, airy studio runs just $180, $230. A one-bedroom near the river, where the water becomes your nightly soundtrack, costs $210, $260. And a full standalone 2-bedroom home with a yard, shade, trees, privacy, and neighbors who greet you gently, $250 to $350. In the United States, that amount barely buys you a parking space. Here, it buys you a life. Even more surprising is the land. In the outskirts of Pakse, you can lease 1,000 to 2,000 square meters of land for only $3,000, $6,000, something unthinkable in modern America. In the lush historical region of Champasak, $5,000 to $8,000 gets you a similar plot. Foreigners can't own land outright, but 30 to 50-year leases are standard, legal, and transparent, offering a level of opportunity that the U.S. priced out long ago. Daily life costs almost nothing. A steaming plate of local food costs $1 or $2. A Western-style cafe drink is $2 or $4. Fresh vegetables at the market sell for 50 cents to $1 per kilo, often picked that very morning. Total monthly expenses, $450, $550 for one person, $700, $900 for a couple. This is the kind of place where you stop counting every dollar because for the first time in years, you don't have to. Healthcare is lighter than most people expect. Private clinics charge $10 to $15 per consultation, and if you ever need advanced treatment, the modern hospitals in Ubon Ratchathani, Thailand, are only an hour away at prices 80 to 90% cheaper than in the US. For most retirees, this combination is ideal everyday care in Laos, specialist care across the border. Visas are simple. A 30-day e-visa is easy to obtain and can be extended to 60 to 90 days. Long-stay options exist through small investments or local company sponsorships, far less complicated than many Southeast Asian countries. And then there is the human story. A retired U.S. Army veteran from Texas came here because his $1,900 monthly pension no longer covered rent and basic expenses in America. In Pakse, he lives on $600 a month, renting a small home and spending his afternoons kayaking on the Mekong as the sun melts into gold behind the mountains. He told me quietly, "In America, I was surviving. Here, I'm finally living." Of course, Pakse isn't perfect. It's small, there's almost no nightlife. If you need serious medical care, you'll travel to Thailand. But for those who are exhausted by noise, crowds' bills, and the constant race, these aren't flaws, they're blessings. Because Pakse is not just a place to live cheaply, it's a place where your retirement stops being a struggle and becomes a life again. 4. Mexico Progreso, the seaside town where life finally feels light again. Progreso is the kind of place that doesn't scream for your attention. It whispers. A warm, gentle coastal town on the Yucatan Peninsula where mornings smell like the ocean. Afternoons drift by slowly, and life suddenly feels so breathable that you catch yourself thinking, "Why didn't I come here sooner?" In the United States, living by the beach usually means sacrifice, higher rent, higher bills, higher stress. But in Progreso, the ocean does the opposite. Here, the beach is the very thing that helps you save money instead of draining it. Housing prices in Progreso make you double-check the numbers because they seem unreal. A clean, bright studio sits at $200 to $260 a month. A one-bedroom apartment near the water, where the sea breeze slips into your room every morning, is only $250 at $300. And if you want extra space, a two-bedroom home with a small yard in a quiet neighborhood rents for just $300, $450. In the US, that amount can barely cover half your electric bill in summer. Then you look at land. In the outskirts of Progreso, 300 to 600 metru plots sell for $6,000, $12,000. A little farther out in the sleepy beach towns of Chelem or Chicxulub, where the sand stretches endlessly and the ocean feels like your backyard land, costs just $7,000, $15,000. Thanks to the fideicomiso system, foreigners can legally and safely hold property through a bank trust. You can plant a garden, build a small home, or simply keep it as a piece of future freedom. Living costs in Progreso are so gentle, they almost feel unreal. A hearty local meal costs $1 or $3. A morning coffee, strong, rich, unmistakably Mexican, is just $1. At the fish market, seafood pulled fresh from the water is 70% cheaper than American supermarkets. Total monthly expenses, $480, $600 for a single person, and $750, $1,000 for a couple living comfortably. Healthcare won't keep you awake at night either. A private consultation ranges from $20 to $40, and when you need high-quality medical care, Merida, home to some of Mexico's best international hospitals, is only 30 minutes away, offering world-class care for a fraction of U.S. prices. Visas are refreshingly flexible. You can stay in Mexico for 180 days on a simple tourist entry. If you want to live, long-term temporary residency is available with proof of $2,500 month income or sufficient savings. After roughly 4 years, you can transition to permanent residency. It's straightforward, clear, and far less stressful than many other countries. But what truly defines Progreso are the stories of people who rediscovered life here. A retired woman from Florida, living on $1,400 a month, once told me, "In Florida, I could barely breathe. In Progreso, I finally live." One sentence that captures why thousands of Americans are quietly choosing Yucatan as the beginning of their next chapter. Of course, Progreso isn't perfect. Summers can be hot. Living near the ocean means maintaining your home more often. But for many, those are tiny trade-offs, small prices to pay for a life that is safer, lighter, calmer, and kissed by the sea. Progreso isn't a place that tries to impress you. It's a place you come to when you want your life to return to the rhythm of your own heart, slower, kinder, and more real. 3. Georgia Kutaisi, the mountain town where life finds its balance again. Kutaisi is the kind of place that looks like it was painted before it was built. Rooftops scattered across rolling hills, mountains rising in the distance, mineral springs bubbling quietly behind old monasteries, and food so cheap and comforting that you almost laugh when you see the bill. This is not the Georgia most travelers talk about. This is the Georgia that saves people. Housing here feels like a gentle correction to the chaos of American rent. A small, bright studio costs $180 to $230. A one-bedroom apartment overlooking the hills runs only $220 to $260. And a proper two-bedroom home, spacious, peaceful, with enough room for a home office or a visiting friend, costs $280, $350. In a town where time moves slowly and views are free, these numbers feel unreal. Then comes the shock that many Americans never expect land. In the countryside around Kutaisi, 1,000 to 2,000 met of land costs only $2,500, $5,000. And in the green villages of Imereti, an entire acre can be found for $3,000, $6,000. It's the kind of opportunity that disappeared in the U.S. decades ago, the chance to plant trees, build a small cottage, grow your own vineyard, or simply own a quiet piece of the earth. Daily life in Kutaisi is a reminder of how affordable happiness can be. A steaming khachapuri gooey cheese bread that warms you from the inside out is $1, $2. Homemade soups are the same. Coffee from a local cafe, $1. And a bottle of homemade Imeretian wine, $2. Total monthly costs $450, $550 for one person, $700, $900 for a couple. This is the kind of place where a good life doesn't require sacrifice, just a plane ticket. Healthcare is simple and surprisingly affordable. Private clinics charge $10 to $20 per visit. And if you ever need advanced care, Tbilisi's international hospitals are only 2 hours away, offering modern treatment without American-style price tags. Then there's the visa, or rather the lack of one. Americans can stay in Georgia for 365 days visa-free, one of the most generous policies in the world. You can leave for a day, re-enter, and reset the year again. No complicated paperwork, no endless forms. Georgia doesn't make you prove your value. It simply welcomes you. Of course, Kutaisi isn't perfect. English isn't widely spoken, and some roads are old enough that you feel every bump. Transportation can be unpredictable. But for people seeking peace instead of perfection, those things don't matter. They're reminders that you've stepped into a place where life is real, not polished, not rushed, not overpriced. Kutaisi doesn't promise luxury. It promises balance. And for many Americans today, that's worth more than anything money can buy. 2. Nicaragua. León. The city. Where life costs so little, you start questioning everything. There are cities in this world that don't just make you rethink your budget, they make you rethink your entire life. León is one of them. A colonial treasure with golden rooftops glowing under the afternoon sun, narrow stone streets echoing with footsteps, and the Pacific Ocean just a short ride away. It is the kind of place that hits you with one shocking realization the moment you arrive. How is it possible to live this well for so little? In America, you work decades, pay off a mortgage, watch grocery prices climb, and yet somehow still feel like you're barely keeping up. But in León, that weight lifts instantly. Here the colors are brighter, the days slower, the heat softer, and the cost of living so low that you start doubting the numbers. But the numbers are real. And for thousands of Americans, León has become the most unexpectedly affordable chapter of their lives. Housing is where the disbelief begins. A simple studio, clean, secure, comfortable rents for $180–240. A one-bedroom home, perfect for a single person or a couple, $220–260. And a full 2- or 3-bedroom house with space to breathe and live freely sits at only $300–450. In the US, that amount doesn't even cover car insurance and groceries. Here, it pays for an entire home. Then comes land, the kind of opportunity people think no longer exists. In the suburbs of León, 300 to 600 mm2 lots sell for $3,000, $7,000. And in Las Penitas, a quiet beach village, where sunsets melt into purple waves, land near the ocean costs only $7,000, $12,000. A price that feels almost illegal when compared to the US market. Daily life. It gets even more shocking. A plate of comida típica rice beans, plantains, chicken, or fish costs $1 or $2. A strong Nicaraguan coffee is $1 or $1. Many days your biggest expense is deciding whether you want fresh mangoes or papayas from the morning market. Monthly living costs fall around $450–550 for one person and $700–950 for a couple. Numbers that Americans spend accidentally just by living through a normal month. Healthcare is simple and shockingly affordable. Clinic visits cost $5 to $15, and if you ever need more advanced care, Managua's international hospitals are only 1 hour away, offering modern treatment at a fraction of US prices. For pensioners, residency is straightforward. Prove $600 a month in retirement income, and you're in. Of course, León has its imperfections. Infrastructure can be rough, and the rainy season is long and heavy. Roads flood, electricity flickers. But for people exhausted by endless bills and endless stress, these things are nothing compared to the feeling of waking up every day knowing you're finally free. León doesn't promise luxury. It promises relief. And for many Americans, that relief is priceless. 1. Nepal, Pokhara, the Himalayan city, where life becomes light again. Pokhara feels like a place that shouldn't exist, a city so peaceful, so gentle, so breathtaking that it almost feels unreal. The snow peaks of the Himalayas rise straight into the sky, and their reflection falls perfectly onto the still waters of Lake Fiwa below. Sunrise turns the mountains pink. Sunset paints the lake gold. And somewhere between those two colors, thousands of Americans quietly realize this might be the cheapest paradise in all of Asia. Housing here is the first surprise. A simple studio, clean, cozy, quiet, costs only $150–200. A beautiful one-bedroom apartment, bright and modern, rents for $200–240. And a full 2- or 3-bedroom house with a garden, the kind of home where you can finally breathe again, costs just $280 to $350. Numbers that feel impossible in the US, yet completely normal in this Himalayan town. Land works differently in Nepal. Foreigners don't own it outright. Instead, you lease it for 50 to 70 years, similar to Cambodia or Laos. And even then, land in the outskirts of Pokhara costs only $3,000, $7,000 for 300 to 600 meters mios. Enough space for a small garden, a wooden home, or simply a place to sit and watch the mountains move with the clouds. Food is where Pokhara steals your heart completely. A plate of momo or curry, warm, fragrant, comforting, costs $1 to $1. A cup of good coffee, $1. You walk through local markets filled with vegetables that cost cents, and you realize you don't need much to live well here. Monthly life, $400, $520 for one person, $650, $850 for a couple. A life that Americans spend hundreds of thousands chasing back home, suddenly available for the price of a few bills. Healthcare is gentle and straightforward. Clinic visits cost $5, $10, and for more serious treatment, hospitals in Kathmandu offer reliable care at prices far below anything in the US. Visas are simple long-term tourist stays, multiple renewals up to 150 days a year. For many retirees, that's more than enough. Of course, Pokhara isn't perfect. The internet can be slow. The hilly terrain makes travel long and sometimes tiring. But for those seeking peace instead of perfection, Pokhara feels like the answer to a question they've been asking for years. Pokhara doesn't try to impress you. It just lets you live lightly, gently, beautifully. And for many Americans, that's enough. The 8 financial traps silently destroying American retirement. Most Americans don't lose their retirement in one big moment. They lose it slowly through 8 quiet traps no one warns them about. 1. Spending like you're still working. You retire, but the habits stay. You keep paying for every dinner, every trip, every family expense. On a fixed income, one old habit becomes a monthly leak. Your savings can't survive. 2. Not preparing for long-term care. 70% of retirees will need it. Most never plan for it. One illness can erase decades of savings in a single year. 3. Not aligning goals with your spouse. One wants to save, the other wants to finally enjoy life. Both make sense, but without clear conversations, retirement becomes tension instead of peace. 4. Forgetting the taxes on withdrawals. Retirement withdrawals trigger some of the biggest taxes of your life. Take money from the wrong account first, and you lose thousands every year without realizing why. 5. Using credit cards for large expenses. With 18-21% interest, one emergency becomes long-term debt. No emergency fund means every surprise becomes a financial blow. 6. Underestimating inflation. 2 to 3% a year sounds harmless until it compounds into 10% after a few seasons. Suddenly, what felt affordable becomes stressful. 7. Becoming easier to scam as you age. Scams grow more sophisticated. A fake IRS message, a fake friend. Email 5 minutes of lost attention can wipe out your savings. 8. Eating out too often. Not because it's wrong, but because it becomes automatic. $35 lunches and $40 dinners add up to thousands a year quietly disappearing. These traps don't ruin retirement overnight. They drain it inch by inch, until one day you realize your future is shrinking faster than your dreams. And that's why thousands of Americans are now seeking places where $215 a month doesn't just pay the rent, it opens the door to a new life, lighter and kinder. Retirement was never meant to be a race against bills. It was never meant to feel like balancing on the edge of your bank account. Retirement is supposed to be a journey, a quiet search for a place where you breathe easier, live slower, and smile more often. A place where mornings feel soft, where your mind unclenches, and where the simple act of being alive doesn't cost more than your peace. These 5 countries aren't perfect, no place ever is. But each one gives you something America has slowly forgotten, a life that isn't too expensive to actually live. A life where $215 a month doesn't buy anxiety, but buys a clean home, fresh food, a calmer rhythm, and the freedom to exist without fear of running out of money before running out of life. If there was even one moment in this video that made your heart pause, one image, one #1 story that whispered, "Maybe I could live like that," then leave a comment below and tell me which country spoke to you. Sometimes the smallest hesitation is your future trying to get your attention. And if you want more journeys like this, places that are cheaper, kinder, and easier on the soul, hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Your support doesn't just help this channel grow. It tells the algorithm that the world needs videos like this, videos that give people hope, options, and a way out of the stress they've been trapped in for years.